Howdy gamers, let's talk about the runes for Rammus Jungle. Even though you could run a keystone such as Predator, really don't think it's needed on Rammus. Rammus is really strong whenever he gets through an early game when he's just farming, and then comes into like mid to late game just really tanky, like one of the tankiest champions in the game. Your ganks are going to happen or they're not depending on like if vision is cleared or if you're in the right position at the right time. Predator is like an addition to your force of a gank, but really just not needed. With Predator, it puts you in the domination tree. Rammus makes okay use at a cheap shot. You could get 2 procs of it, but other champions use it better. He gets no value out of these runes in which you're building up bonus AD or ability power, which Rammus can't really make great use out of either. And then for the 4th rune here, he also doesn't get great value out of them, whether it's out of combat movement speed, or ultimate cooldown reduction, or just Ingenious Hunter for the Predator. So you do gimp a lot of what like is useful for Rammus, because the resolve tree is so useful for Rammus, and he just doesn't need Predator for his ganks. His ganks are going to happen or they're not without it. So I think the only keystone that you should be running on Rammus is Aftershock in the jungle. With Aftershock, after you CC an enemy, so anytime you hit them with your Q or your E, you gain bonus armor and magic resist, 35 armor and magic resist plus 80% of your bonus resistances for 2.5 seconds. This in combination with your W is insanity. Like, you can tank so much. It's so ridiculous. So if you use it, you proc your Aftershock when you initially go in, and then after Aftershock is over and you lose the bonus resistances from that, and then you use your W, you're effectively invulnerable like for about 5 or 6 seconds or 7 seconds, like, and that's a long time in the duration of a fight in League. Whenever you do proc it, you also gain a flat amount of damage based off your level and your bonus health, so that works really well, adding to a little bit of the burst whenever you get onto a target. So naturally you're usually like Q flashing and then using the E to taunt the target, so you're almost guaranteed to get the Aftershock damage off on them. And then the cooldown of Aftershock is only 20 seconds, so every single time you gank it's probably going to be up. If you're in a skirmish and you have to use it defensively, it's still fine. Whenever you use your Q or your E on a target, then it'll help you walk away from them. It might not help you get away from them, but it will help you, tank more. And then if you're tanking more, you're just generally more useful as Rammus, as your team can respond, and that's what you should be looking to do, as you're a tank and inevitably a support as Rammus, and you should be looking to play him as such to get the highest value out of him. For the secondary runes, I think your best bet is Font of Life. To trade off Font of Life with something like Demolish seems kind of misguided too, as even if you get a successful gank off, you're just looking to push the wave and reset. And with Demolish, you could get more turret plates, but you'd be sharing the gold with your team anyways. It's better if they get 1 turret plate versus you both getting 2, as again, you're the tank, you're the support. With Font of Life, you add extra functionality in your kit. Whenever you impair the movements of an enemy champion, you mark them, so anytime you land your Q, your E, even when you're slowing them with the ult, or even when you blue smite them, you're going to be impairing the movement of them, marking them for 4 seconds. Allied champions who attack the marked enemies heal for 5 plus 1% of your max health over 2 seconds. So whenever you're team fighting, your entire team is just inevitably at higher amounts of HP because of Font of Life, if you're on top of the enemy and doing your job as a tank. So it adds extra functionality to your front line and really does help, especially marksman champions that you'll be playing with, so like Corki mid, any AD carry champion, Lucian top, etc. Even the bruisers make really good use out of it, where there are a lot of on-hit champions like Irelia and whatnot. For the 3rd rune, I think your only good option is Conditioning. With Conditioning, you gain +9 armor and magic resist at 10 minutes, and then increase your armor and magic resist by 5% as well. Since Rammus is just looking to farm the early game anyways, and it's really hard to make use out of Bone Plating or Second Wind in the early game as Rammus, the payoff of Conditioning is so high. It stacks with every single resistance item that you're going to be building, whether it be like Gargoyles and Locket, etc. And in combination with your W and Aftershock, just makes you so much tankier. Imagine trading all of this off for Predator to be a little faster and deal like 100 extra damage. It's insanity. With Bone Plating, like, maybe you could make use out of it in some jungle matchups in which they're winning and then also want to invade Rammus early, but I just don't see those. And in those cases, you'd be better off avoiding those champions anyways versus trying to fight them. And whenever you're fighting them too, Rammus's job is really just to survive so that his ally could deal damage. So it makes it an even harder situation to come out of successful. For the fourth rune, you have good options in Overgrowth or Unflinching. With Overgrowth, you're getting more health for basically farming. With Overgrowth, you absorb life essence from monsters and enemy minions that die near you, permanently increasing your maximum health by 3 for every 8. And then whenever you've absorbed 120 monsters or enemy minions, you gain an additional 3.5% maximum health. So this has natural synergy with Cinderhulk, and then with Gargoyles, with Locket, with any health item that you can be building. Really, really useful rune, and it's going to be giving you about 200 to like 240 extra HP for free, and that's so much gold value just from that one rune. You could run Unflinching. With Unflinching, it helps you stay on to targets. After you cast a summoner spell, you gain 15% tenacity and slow resist for 10 seconds, and then an additional 10% tenacity and slow resist for each summoner spell on cooldown. So with Unflinching, it helps you stay on to targets again. But if the matchups just don't require that, then Overgrowth is going to be more useful. And Overgrowth's more useful in like basically every case. If the enemy has a lot of peel, champions like Janna, Thresh, etc., Unflinching can be pretty good, as it lets you get past their CC anyways and stay onto a target. But in general and defaultly, I'd recommend Overgrowth. For the secondary runes, I think your best bet is Sorcery. You could run Precision with something like Alacrity and Triumph. Alacrity giving you more attack speed, so then therefore giving you more damage on your W, and then also helping you clear. And then with Triumph, it restores 12% of your missing health whenever you get a kill or assist, and it grants you additional 20 gold. With this, you gain like a little bit of scaling, and then a little bit of extra like frontlining ability because of the HP regen from Triumph. Whenever your team would kill a target, because you're most likely getting an assist, and then with that, you have more HP to play with. But in general, like Rammus is either like in the fight or he's out of it, and then you're in it or out of it, and then when your W's on cooldown too, you're significantly less tanky anyways, and then you're probably on cooldown, so it'd be fine for you to just back out of the fight versus getting a little bit of HP back just to stand still and take more damage. With the Alacrity too, the attack speed does feel nice. You could potentially get more damage off from it, but not really Rammus's job, and then to have a little bit of extra clear speed isn't that crazy. You're not making or breaking things from it, but both of these do feel nice. I'll give them that, and they're not terrible. Back to Sorcery, I think Sorcery is just so strong because you get Nimbus Cloak. With Nimbus Cloak, it's pretty similar to Unflinching, as it's going to help you stay on targets. With Nimbus Cloak, after you cast a summer spell, you gain a movement speed increase that lasts for 2.5 seconds and allows you to pass through units. The movement speed increase is based off the cooldown of the summer spell that you cast. So with that, your Blue Smite and your Flash is going to be giving you movement speed, and that's so incredibly strong, as whenever you're approaching for a gank, even if the enemy's flashing away from you, if you Blue Smited them, you're going to have more movement speed to get onto them and then actually land the taunt onto them. Whenever you're like flash engaging onto the enemy, Nimbus Cloak, whenever you just Blue Smite or flashing on them, is going to give you more movement speed to stay on those targets, and if you're staying on top of them, then you're just generally more useful as Rammus. So the utility of Nimbus Cloak is really, really strong in your offensive options for Rammus. And your defensive options, if a fight's not going your way, or if you have to escape a gank, it's also really useful, as the extra movement speed lets you do so. If the enemy, like let's say you had a successful gank, but you move into the river, the enemy jungler's there, you're 40% HP, he's 100% HP, he gets onto you, but then you taunt and then Blue Smite him, you can just run away. Fantastic. Or if you flash away, you're actually going to get a meaningful distance away from them because of the extra movement speed offered. So it's really, really a broken rune. Like, it's coming into season 10, it's one of the like most underrated runes. It does put you in the sorcery tree. Your best options here are going to be Celerity or Transcendence. Water Walking's okay, but Rammus, I suppose Water Walking's fine actually. With Water Walking, you gain 25 movement speed whenever you're in the river, and then also you gain Adaptive Force, which Rammus doesn't really care about. The extra movement speed in the river is going to help whenever you're approaching for ganks or fighting around objectives. So there is utility in that, versus the extra movement speed whenever you're in the queue or whenever you cast a summer spell with Celerity. So depending on team comps, like if it's a more team fighting or objective based, like ally and enemy team comp, maybe you can make an argument for Water Walking. And if the lanes can be ganked early, then Water Walking maybe gains value there. With Transcendence, it gives you access to 10% cooldown reduction whenever you reach level 10. It is going to take you a while to get this as you're the jungler and you don't get as many levels. But once you get it, having that extra 10% gets you more rotations of all your basic abilities, and it does go a pretty far way, as Rammus doesn't really get to 40%, but any amount of cooldown reduction he gets for free does feel really good, especially as a tank. You're just inevitably dealing more damage because you can get more of your abilities off. And if you're getting more of your abilities off, you're probably CCing the enemy more, so then you can just generally be more useful. With Celerity, all movement speed bonuses are 7% more effective, and you gain an additional 1% movement speed. So this, in combination with your Q, in combination with Nimbus Cloak, is just going to help you whenever you're approaching for ganks or trying to stay onto targets or trying to get onto targets. So defaultly, I'd recommend Celerity. If you're playing at a higher MMR or looking to scale, Transcendence is completely fine though. So, and Nimbus Cloak plus Celerity, I think would outweigh a little bit of attack speed and a little bit of health in like almost every single case, man. I suppose you could run Domination second too with something like Cheap Shot and Relentless Hunter, but same thing. The extra damage that Cheap Shot's going to add really doesn't matter that much. You could run Ravenous Hunter, where it's going to be healing you for a percentage of damage dealt by your abilities. If you're building something crazy like Cinderhulk and Leandries on Rammus, this is going to be your better bet if you're trying to really carry, but defaultly, I think Nimbus Cloak and Celerity is going to be your best bet. Anything in the Inspiration tree, I don't think even comes close. And then for the adaptive runes, you want attack speed, armor, and armor. For most champions, you don't want to run double resistances, as the adaptive force is more useful for them, but with Rammus, since you're a tank and since you have basically you get damage from having armor, the armor just is more useful. And then the attack speed, since you're playing in the jungle, the attack speed is going to be helping you clear the camps faster. And that's really it for Rammus runes. That's my opinions on them. That's what I think. I think the Resolve tree is just super useful, and then the utility gained from the movement speed to get onto targets and to stay onto them is hard outweighing like any of the combat stats from precision or even from domination in unique cases. So yeah, that's that. If this video helped you, leaving a like on the video helps me. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you think I was wrong about something, I don't know everything about every single champion, you can leave that in the comments as well. You can subscribe, you can like the video. I don't fucking know, it helps, it's something. You can check out my Twitch, twitch.tv/SorryNelson. Links in the description. Check it out, man. I play League of Legends. Get this. I play League of Legends on stream. Get this. 0 LP Grandmaster, by the way. Thoughts? Alrighty. Bye-bye. See you later.